This video is going to talk about how to estimate square roots. Some of the square roots that you see in life are very easy to figure out. For example, the square root of 49 is 7, because 7 times 7 is 49. But sometimes you're going to get square roots that are a little bit more challenging to handle. For example, if you were asked to find the square root of 30, how would you figure that out? What would you do? Well, think about if you were to open up to a specific page in a book, let's say your math textbook, and I say to open up to page 549. Are you automatically going to get to page 549? No, you're going to open up to a page that's maybe a little bit too far back, and then you have to flip back in the book, and maybe that's a little bit too far forward, and you have to keep kind of finding the page numbers until you get to the correct one. So we're going to do the same thing here. What square numbers are very close to 30? We know that 5 to the second power is 25. We know that 6 to the second power is 36. So we know that 30 has to be somewhere between 5 and 6. So we have our starting point. So we know that if we had a number line, and we had the number 5 and the number 6 on here, the square root of 30 would be somewhere in between. We just need to figure out where exactly in that in-between area is it. We're not going to go into like the 100,000th place, but we're going to go into the 10th place, just enough to see what we're doing. So 25, and 36, I'm going to guess that it's going to be somewhere around the middle, our answer. So I'm going to take a look at 5.4 to the second power. And when you're doing this, you will hopefully have access to a calculator. But we're going to assume that the calculator you have access to doesn't have the square root button, because that would completely defeat the purpose of this entire video. So I'm going to use a calculator as well, so you don't have to sit here through 15 multiplication problems. 5.4 to the second power is 29.16. That's not exactly 30. That's a little bit too low. Let's try going a little bit higher. Let's see what happens when we try 5.5 to the second power. 5.5 to the second power is 30.25. 30.25 is actually a little bit too high. So we know that the answer is somewhere between 5.4 and 5.5. So what I want to do is I want to take it one step further than this. And I want to see what happens when we go right in between 5.4 and 5.5. Let's take a look at what 5.45 squared is. 5.45 squared is 29.70. And you can tell that I'm rounding these to the nearest hundredth. That's okay. That's just to get a good idea of what's on here. 29.70 is too low to be 30. And because it's too low, we know that our answer is going to be 5.46, 5.47, 5.48. Any one of these is going to cause this number to round up. So our final answer is going to be 5.5, approximately. So the square root of 30 is about 5.5. This is a little bit challenging to take in to look at, so let's go ahead and let's do another one really quick. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the square root of 80. Well, the first step we have to look at is what numbers are close to 80 but are also perfect squares. So we know that 7 squared is 49, 8 squared is 64, 9 squared is 81. So we're not going to need 7 squared. We know that the square root of 80 is somewhere between 8 and 9, because 8 times 8 is 64, and 9 times 9 is 81. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out, well, to the nearest 10th place, what is the square root of 80? If I try 8.5, that's not going to get me close enough to what I need. This number is 64. This number is 81. 80 is super, super close to 81. And because 80 is so close to 81, I'm going to try, let's say 8.8. And 8.8 squared is 77.44. That's way too low. I need to try something else. So let's try 8.9 squared. 8.9 squared is 79.21. Hey, we're getting closer. This is looking good. We know that 9 squared, or 9.0, is going to be 81. So we know that our answer is somewhere between 8.9 and 9. But we need to figure out what is it closer to. So let's go ahead and let's try. We know it's somewhere between 8.9 and 9. So now let's try 8.95, and you can see that we're getting more specific on every level. 8.95 squared is going to be 80.1. 80.1025, but that's okay. 80.1. 80.1 is too high. So we know that the answer is going to be 8.954, 8.953, 8.952, something along those lines. So we know that the square root of 80 is going to be close to 8.9.